Hi, this is Naomi with Sword and Steel, and today I have got several new items to show you. These were given to me by Games Workshop, and they are Angron, World Eater's Primark turned Demon of Khorne. We have the Lord Invocatus, is what I'm assuming how you would spell it. Invocatus, could be Invocatus. Or his alternative build, which is the Lord on Juggernaut, which you can completely build separately from the one kit. The rider, I will show you that. We have the new Khorne Berserkers, no longer so chibi, quite cute. We have the Exalted Eightbound or the regular Eightbound in the same kit. And then we have their bloodthirsty followers, not quite as bloodthirsty, but pretty darn close, the Jackals. So in this video, we will look at all of the models that have been completely assembled, chat about the various weapon options and assembly options that you have, any difficulties that I came across that I thought you should know before you do it yourself, and anything else I can think of while we're at it. Alright, here we are. So let's look at the Jackals first. The Jackals come with World Eater transfers. They don't need them themselves, but it's a way to get some transfers so that you can use them on your Terminators or tanks or anyone else who's not specifically World Eaters, but you want to World Eater them up. So do the Exalted Eightbound while I'm at it, and the Khorne Berserkers. So for the Jackals, there are more pieces per person than I thought there would be. I thought it would be a little bit more straightforward. Well, they're straightforward if you just follow the assembly guide. I just thought there'd be less pieces. See, there's the Dishonored as well, which you can have in a group of 10, and it's this bigger based model, but there's no downside to having him, so he's great. You can add a Skull Smasher like I did, and it is an additional weapon to his Jackal Chain Blades. He does not have the auto pistol like all of the other Jackals do. And so the Skull Smasher is additional 5 points, and it looks like this. He's got 4 different head options, so even though he is mono pose, you'll be able to make him look somewhat different. And the way his arms attach on, you could probably change it up without too much trouble. For the rest of them, there are 4 lady jackals and 5 guy jackals, so though you can basically fit any head on any body, there are 15 heads in total. You'll want to keep that in mind when assembling them. You could just follow the assembly guide though, and they put the right head to the right kind of body. The leader of the Jackals wields the same weapons as the others. He just has this thing on the back of him to tell you from a distance who he is. All of them wield auto pistols and Jackal chain blades. No matter what they look like, they're just auto pistols and Jackal chain blades, with the exception of the one who can take a Mauler chain blade, which is the two-handed chainsword for 5 points, to replace a chain blade, though they still take the auto pistol. And I did take that since more damage than AP, despite a -1 to hit, is still worth it to me, since there are ways to increase your number of attacks, or add 1 to hit, or reroll hit rolls. A bunch of different ways to make you better in melee combat, so I want to max out my melee combat damage. A 1 in 10 can also wield an icon, but I decided to save my 5 points for more aggressive things, since it gives them, the icon does, it gives them a bonus to their combat attrition roll, and I'm sorry guys, but you are my fodder, and you might be better used to help me get blood tithe points if you die. Next we have the newly sculpted Khorne Berserkers. You get 16 helmetless heads and 11 helmeted heads for 10 guys, which I used the helmeted heads. One of which is specific to the champion, and that one looks like a Khorne symbol more than all the others. You get 3 plasma pistols, which is the most you can have within a unit of 10 anyway, since the champion can carry 1, and 1 in every 5 guys can take 1 to replace their bolt pistol. It's 5 points each to add the plasma pistols. You also get 2 eviscerators, which are the two-handed weapons, to replace the one-handed chain blades. And again, you can only have a max of 1 for every 5 guys, so you get exactly what you need to build them. They're also 5 points to add. They also have an icon bearer, and this one I did use because one of their abilities where basically if they take damage on being shot at, they get to run towards the people that shot at them or move towards the people that shot at them, but they normally have to cancel the action that they're performing. Well, this icon allows that action to be successfully completed instead of failed, so that makes it worth it to me. They have more than enough shoulder pads to go around, with the World Eater symbol on the left shoulder and the Khorne style symbol on the right. Small note, during assembly, I noticed that piece 34 is labeled 33 in the guide, and piece 33 is labeled 34. Not biggie, but, you know, in case you're wondering. And one other little note, about halfway through you're going to find when you're attaching one leg to the other leg to form their hips, there's going to be a gap. And I should have taken a picture of it. I'm sorry, I did not, but the gap, it threw me off for a moment, but there is supposed to be a gap there, and it allows for another piece to fit into place. So if you see a gap about halfway through, don't worry about it. A gap at the hip on his belt line. Okay, every bit fits together just so all you have to do is dry fit, so you know exactly where it's supposed to be. Though I think even if you didn't dry fit, I think these are pretty straightforward to put together, and the ones that you don't have to worry about, that you can design exactly how you want them to be aimed or pointed towards, are the arms and the heads of all of the berserkers, and they can fit on whoever you want. So you could put any arm on any body and any head on any body, with a little bit of restrictions based on the stuff that they're holding and what arm works well with what body. I did not necessarily follow the guide for that. Next, we have the Exalted Eightbound, which can alternatively be billed as simply the Eightbound. The Exalted Eightbound are more demonic looking, their souls being more attuned with the demons carried in their bodies, and the two different units do have different weapons as well. So you'll want to look at each of their datasheets, because they have different datasheets, and decide which you want to build and which weapons you want for them. I chose to build mine as the Exalted Eightbound, as you might be able to tell, and the first half of the assembly guide is for the Exalted ones, the second half is for building the regular Eightbound. The champion has the option to upgrade his Eviscerator to have a second Chain Fist or a Chain Glaive, and I have given him the Chain Fist. The other two don't have alternate weapon options, it's just the champion. I chose the Chain Fist over the Chain Glaive because it seems like the Exalted Eightbound are better suited to face medium threat opponents rather than just basic infantry like the Eightbound are meant to. So the Chain Fist has higher strength, AP, and damage, as opposed to the Chain Glaive, which has more attacks but lesser damage and strength. They each have armor that is very similar to what their Gene Father wears, but you could easily keep the armor and backpack off if you wanted to, since their bodies underneath the armor are fully sculpted. Their bodies are monopose, but with more than enough heads to choose from, and with a little carving, since particularly underneath the shoulder, you'd be able to hide any mal-attached arms pretty easily, even if you weren't that good with custom builds. Side note, when you're building them, you will come across two sets of these adorable bits that look like fluffy monster slippers. It's so awesome. I kind of wanted to keep them off, but then they would not have proper feet. If I have any more of these, though, oh man, I got to give someone some fluffy monster slippers. It doesn't look like it when they're assembled, but to me, they are actually wearing fluffy monster slippers. Okay. Next, we have the Lord Invocatus, who can be alternatively built, as I said, as a Lord on Juggernaut. And by alternatively, I mean you can actually build both Invocatus and the Lord. And though it does require a little bit of carving to fit the Juggernaut's legs in place after you attach the rider, and you would need to either magnetize the back legs to the beast or remove these pieces and use another way to keep the riders on the steed, you still have two separate models. In fact, you also have an extra pair of hind legs, front legs, and a head to switch Invocatus' steed to the more standard Juggernaut. So if you manage to recreate this particular piece out of, I don't know, a whole bunch of skulls, then you could build another mount to go with the other rider. That's kind of cool. Invocatus has only one way to be built, with his Coward's Bane axe in his hand and the Bloodstorm helm that keeps him in control of his Juggernaut, whose name is Calgaruth. The Lord has a couple more options, but it's only for looks, because whether he's wielding a plasma pistol or holding on to his own steed, or whether he's using a sword or the axe, the way he is put on his datasheet is the same. There are a couple of extra heads without helmets to choose from, but I like to have all my guys in their helms. Again, dry fit each piece as you go along, and you'll see that every piece fits just so. And lastly, we have the Primark of the World Eaters himself, Angron, who is as big as a bloodthirster. About the size of Skarbrand. A little bigger, actually. His wings are bigger, though. I mean, Skarbrand's wings are in a pretty sad state. But he's much bigger than the Demon Prince, whether it be the old one or the new one. The new one is on the left, the old one is on the right. He is a nice, big beast of a guy. I don't have his shoulder pads glued yet, nor is he attached to his base, and I have his armor barely glued on just to show you what it looks like, because I do think it would be much easier to paint him with his armor separate from his body. Some may go further and keep his wings off as well, which you could do, but that would also require keeping his arms off, since you have to put on the wings followed by the arms. And I think I should be able to paint his wings, no problem with them already attached. Now, there are multiple places on him where the join lines are visible. Just use very thin plastic glue. Most of them are hidden, but there are some places that you'll see. But all you have to do is use very thin plastic glue, and layer by layer you can make the join lines become seamless. There is no alternative way to build him, no alternative weapons, with one little exception. You can either build his mouth open or closed. I, for one, think Angron would absolutely be bellowing with rage, so my Angron has his mouth open. Forever. The extra pieces are just his bottom jaw and a couple of tubes, so you don't get a full head, but get a bottom jaw. You could put a big skull on top and have a creepy thing. Anyway, his knee armor is also separate pieces, so you can absolutely keep his knee pieces off as well to paint them separately. I didn't think it necessary for the knees, but you can if you want to. Despite the size, you will want to use tweezers to attach any of his tubes and stuff, because it's a very specific spot that you want, and they don't really plug in, they just settle into place. Even though it's clear where they go, it's just easier than when trying to use your fingers. Alright, I hope you enjoy. These guys are now available for pre-order, so you should grab them if you can. There's a lot of excitement about them so far, at least around where I am, so I'm curious how it is on your end. Are you excited about these Chaos Space Marines of Khorne? The corniest of the Khorne? Just forget I said that. And make certain to comment below if you had any questions on anything that I didn't quite cover, so I can answer them, or someone else can answer them, because they might have the same question as you. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will catch you in the next video. Thank you very much, patrons. If we were to think of a theme song for Angron, what would it be? Feels like it would be very metal, and screaming, and angry. I have to think of one now. Flesh Terrors Red and Berserker Bloodshade mixed together, so I hope you enjoyed that. I probably had too much fun creating it. Okay,